Before men wrote their histories, they feared these names, not because they were worshipped, because they were real. Welcome, traveler. This is the Myth Wanderer. This is my archive, not of myths, but of memory. Every name here has been spoken before, every page has been lived, and some should never have been opened again. The archive is older than any empire. Tonight, it opens on the north. I draw the volume from the shelf. Frost clings to the leather. Runes wake beneath my hand like embers buried in snow. 15 gods, Aesir and Vanir, keepers of order, breakers of peace, rulers of a heaven that already knows how it will die. Come, turn the page. The cold is honest. Odin, not merely a king. A seeker so ruthless he made a wound of himself and called it wisdom. For 9 nights he hung on Yggdrasil, pierced by his own spear, staring into the abyss until the runes stared back. He gave an eye to Mimir's well for knowledge, and learned that knowledge never arrives alone. It brings cost. It brings grief. He sits on Hlidskjalf, not because he is safe there, but because he has seen Ragnarok and understands the cruelty of foresight. To know the end and still have to walk toward it. His ravens gather thought and memory. His wolves wait at the edge of slaughter. And when he wanders the worlds in a traveler's cloak, it is because wisdom that stops moving begins to rot. Odin does not chase immortality. He chases readiness. The air changes here, starlight, silence, and the ache of a truth already known. Frigg, Queen of Asgard. Not an ornament beside power, but power made patient. In Fensalir she spins and watches. In the threads she reads what others call tomorrow. Even Odin, with all his sacrifices, does not see as she sees. And that sight is no blessing. To know what is coming and hold your tongue is its own form of torment. When Baldr's death drew near, she went to stone and steel, beast and branch, and wrung from the world its promises of protection. Only mistletoe slipped through her hands. One omission, one dead son, one wound in heaven that never closed. Frigg reminds us that love can foresee disaster, fight it with everything it has, and still arrive too late. Thor, not the storm above you, the storm that has stepped down and chosen a target. Where Odin calculates, Thor answers. He is blunt force with a sacred purpose, to stand between the worlds and whatever would break them. Mjolnir is not a symbol, it is a verdict. In his grasp, giants fall, mountains tremble, and the sky remembers who rules its thunder. Belted, gauntleted, roaring into battle, he fights like strength itself has run out of patience. And still it is never enough. There is always another beast, another wall to hold, another horizon turning black. He knows the world serpent waits for him at the end. He knows they will kill each other. Thor goes anyway. Protection means showing up even when prophecy has already written the price. Light pours across the page so cleanly it almost hurts. Baldr. He was the joy of Asgard, not merely beautiful, but beloved, the kind of presence that made the future feel survivable. Then came the dreams. His mother asked all things not to harm him, and for a while the world obeyed. Spears glanced away, stone refused him, fire spared him. But Loki found the one thing that had not sworn. A blind hand cast the mistletoe. The light went out. Baldr's death is more than a tragedy. It is the first proof that the gods can be broken, and that innocence is never protection enough. They say he will return after Ragnarok, when the world rises clean again. Perhaps. But for now, even heaven remembers him as an absence. The words here feel hammered into iron. Tyr, not war as frenzy, war as law, courage disciplined into duty. Before Odin's shadow covered everything, Tyr stood higher than any of them. He lost that place without complaint, because rank meant less to him than right action. That is why, when Fenrir demanded trust, only Tyr offered his hand. He knew the gods were deceiving the wolf. He knew the wolf would understand the moment the chain held. He knew exactly what it would cost him. Fenrir bit. Tyr did not withdraw. He paid the price in flesh and kept his honor whole. Tyr teaches a harsher truth than glory. Honor is not what survives untouched. It is what survives the wound. A sound lives on this page before it is spoken. Heimdall, watchman of Bifrost, sentinel of thresholds, the god who misses nothing because he was never made for rest. He hears impossibilities, grass rising, wool growing, danger forming long before it has a name. His sight runs across the 9 realms like fire along a dry line. He was born of 9 mothers, the sea's own daughters, and perhaps that is why vigilance moves through him like tide. When Ragnarok gathers, Heimdall will be the first to know and the first to answer. Gjallarhorn will split the air, and all creation will understand the warning at once. But he is not only the one who sounds the end, he is the one who remains at his post after learning how it ends. Heimdall watches because guardianship is not optimism. It is duty with its eyes open. Even before I read, the page has already found its music. Bragi, poet of Asgard, keeper of memory. The god who understands that what survives a battle is rarely the battle itself. It is the story told after. When the fallen arrive in Valhalla, it is Bragi who gives their deaths a shape worthy of remembrance. In his hall, courage becomes verse, and verse becomes immortality. In the North, poetry was never decoration. It could honor kings, shame cowards, preserve bloodlines, and turn a single life into legend. The others wield spear, hammer, and sword. Bragi wields meaning. He takes pain, victory, loss, and longing, and binds them into something time cannot easily erase. Page goes still, not empty, still. Vidar, silent son of Odin, the patient one, the god who speaks so little that people forget he is there at all. He keeps to the deep places, far from feast and fanfare, as if he was made to wait for a single moment and refused to spend himself before it arrived. That moment comes at Ragnarok, when Fenrir swallows Odin and the world seems to lose its spine. Vidar steps forward then. His great shoe pins the wolf. His hands tear open the mouth that devoured a god. He is vengeance without noise, survival without spectacle. When fire has passed through the worlds and the shouting is finished, Vidar remains. Some endings need a witness who does not burn. Freya, love, war, beauty, desire, sorcery, death. She does not belong to one domain because she was never built to be simple. She brought cedar to the gods and taught even Odin that power can move through spell, longing, and unseen force as surely as through a blade. And when the slain are counted, half come first to her field before the rest are sent to Valhalla. Brisingamen burns at her throat. Gold tears fall for the husband who wandered out of reach. In Freya, hunger and grief share the same face and neither apologizes. She arrived from the Vanir as hostage, stranger, outsider, and became one of the great centers of the Norse world. No one dismisses Freya for long. Sooner or later, everyone learns that beauty can be a weapon and desire can rule like a crown. Warmth rises from this page, not softness, but life at full strength. Freya, god of sunlit fields, rain-bearing skies, harvest, peace, and the quiet prosperity that lets a people endure winter. He is one of the Vanir, brother to Freya, and wherever his favor falls, the world grows generous. Grain thickens, animals breed, the land remembers abundance. But Freya is also the god who traded safety for longing. He surrendered the sword that could fight on its own because he wanted Gerd more than he feared the future. That choice follows him to Ragnarok, where he meets Surtur under a burning sky with no proper weapon left to him. He falls, but not before showing what kind of god he is. Freya believes life is worth loving even at terrible cost. That is why his fields outlive him. The air tastes of salt here. Njord, sea lord, wind-bearer, giver of wealth, the god invoked whenever a keel meets dark water and men hope the horizon is merciful. He governs the luck of trade, the fullness of nets, the winds that decide whether ships return rich, ruined, or not at all. To sailors and merchants, that kind of power is almost indistinguishable from fate. His marriage to Skadi was a pact between shore and mountain, and like many such pacts, it failed where poetry wanted it to succeed. He could not love her winter heights. She could not breathe in his restless surf. So Njord becomes something rarer than a simple god of abundance, a provider marked by separation. Skadi, huntress of winter, lady of high mountains, the cold edge of independence given divine form. She came to Asgard not as guest, but as avenger, armed for justice after the gods killed her father. They expected rage, they received terms. She chose a husband by his feet and found not Baldr but Njord, a mistake the poets enjoy far more than either of them did. Shore and summit could not keep the same rhythm. So Skadi returned to the heights, to skis, bowstring, wolf tracks, and the fierce, clean honesty of snow. She does not need the warmth of halls to prove her worth. Some powers are strongest where comfort dies. Skadi belongs to that law. The mountain was enough for her. That may be why she feels larger than many thrones. The words refuse to stand still. Loki, trickster, shapeshifter, oath brother, saboteur, the most dangerous figure in Asgard because he can be useful right up until the second he is catastrophic. He solves disasters he helped create. He wins back treasures, then plants the seed of the next ruin. He is wit without loyalty, brilliance without a flaw beneath it. Monsters call him father, Sleipnir calls him mother. The gods call him friend only because they mistake familiarity for safety. After Baldr's death, they bind him beneath the venom of a serpent. Sigyn catches what she can. What she cannot becomes agony, and the earth shudders with his pain. People call those tremors earthquakes. The myths call them rehearsal. Because when Loki finally breaks his chains, chaos stops being a nuisance and becomes an age. Golden fruit glows in the margins of this page. Idun. She keeps the apples that hold age at bay, and with them the humiliating truth that even gods need tending. Without Idun, Asgard does not fall in a blaze. It decays. Shoulders stoop, hair pales, strength leaks away. Eternity reveals itself to be maintenance, not miracle. When she was stolen, the gods panicked with a terror deeper than battle. Not fear of death in glory, fear of becoming weak, slow, and forgettable. When she returned, youth returned with her. But the lesson remained. Idun is gentle only if you mistake gentleness for smallness. In truth, she carries the one power every kingdom depends on: renewal. Everything on this page settles into order. For Seti, son of Baldr and Nanna, god of justice, mediation, and the difficult peace that comes after anger, has had its say. In Glitnir, disputes do not simply end, they are resolved. That distinction matters. Anyone can impose silence. Very few can restore balance. For Seti rules without spectacle. No thunder, no battlefield, no ecstatic prophecy. Only judgment so measured that even the defeated can leave with dignity intact. In a world crowded with gods who answer conflict by striking harder, he represents a rarer strength, the power to reconcile without surrendering truth. He is quiet, yes, but civilizations are not built by noise alone. Sometimes they are built by the one voice in the room that refuses to inflame what it can heal. 15 names, 15 powers, 15 ways the North imagined order, hunger, love, violence, memory, and the end of all things. The Norse gods were never built on the promise of forever. They knew the world could break. They simply chose to meet that knowledge standing. The book closes. Frost settles over the cover, but the runes do not dim, and the archive does not sleep. Until we meet again, traveler.